And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are here for the webinar of Invest in Lombardy. This is the first 50 webinar that we organized. And today we are going to cover an interesting new topic that is Italia Startup Visa. Today with us we have Legal Ground law firm that is specialized in this topic. But briefly, I would like to introduce this webinar, trying to explain some aspects about our region and about our activities. First of all, Invest in Lombardy, some of you probably know, is the investment promotion department of Promos. It's a project jointly powered by the Chamber of Commerce and the Lombardy government, with the aim of support for investors that would like to start up business in our region. We are a network of Chamber of Commerce that is supported by 25 private partners. Legal Ground is one of them. We support foreign companies from the very beginning, from the startup of the business till the finalization of the business, recruitment, location search, and a certain type of service, very specialized and tailor-made. We offer a free office to the startup that would like to invest in our region, invest in our market, and in a specialized scientific park and incubator. I would like just briefly introduce about some number about Lombardy region that can help you to understand why the Lombardy region is the most attractive area for startups. First of all, the 25% of the Italian GDP is produced in our region, something comparable with a region like Denmark or Finland or Ireland or Portugal. And we have a GDP per capita very high. We are one of the top 10 World Economic Center. And it's not strange that 92 of the top 100 multinational companies that are based in Italy have the main headquarters in our region. This is thanks to the fact that we are a good mix between low cost, obviously salary low cost, and real estate low cost, with high quality of the human resource. We are the first region in high technology manufacturing for number of companies, for number of employees. We are one of the first region in Europe for employees in the chemical industry, and those are sectors in which the startup grow very fast. We have a good position in the center of the Mediterranean, and it's not strange that we are the first region in Europe for number of warehouses and storage. Every year we have over 30% of the Italian patents registered in the EU, and this is something comparable with the Boston area for US. We have 13 universities with very specialized university, for example, in fashion, in design, and it's not strange that there are a lot of talents that are willing to start up their business and here in our region. The Financial Times awarded us as the best region to invest in for the southern part of Europe for the next years. And this is a thing that is a very interesting result. Just a few numbers about the startups that we want to take time to the further presentation, but it's very interesting that on over 2,500 startups in this year that are startups in this year, most of them are in north part of Italy, and most of them in the Lombardy region. The Lombardy region is the main region for startup, innovative startup, and Milan is the main city for a number of innovative startups. This is thanks to the fact that we have an ecosystem, a startup ecosystem, very diversified. We have a number of incubators, of co-working space, with over 60% of the Italian institutional investors are based in our region. And I think that this helps a lot in order to grow the startup ecosystem. The main sector for the Lombardy region is for startup is obviously industry, but there is a quite interesting number of new startups in the energy sector and in the service industry. But I would like to avoid to go further on this topic, because today with us there are two professionals that are very expert in this topic. So I'm pleased to introduce you Alessandro Grangiotti and Alessandra Palladini of Legal Grounds that will go further on this topic. I would like just to ask you to type your question on the chat on your left side. Otherwise, you can send us email after the presentation. All the presentation and also my presentation that you couldn't see due to the technical problem will be sent you after the webinar. Thank you for your time, and I hope that with this event will help you a lot to understand better our ecosystem. Thank you.
Good morning, good evening, everybody. Of the Ministry for Economic Development's website dedicated to the special program called ITALIA Startup Visa starts with a list of reasons to set up an innovative company in our country. Among these reasons, it is pointed out that Italy is celebrated throughout the world for its art, culture, creativity, and manufacturing quality. That Italy boasts an extensive network of high-quality universities, as well as science and technology parks. More, that Italy is the second manufacturing country in the European Union and fifth in the world. Moreover, that Italy is ranked the first worldwide for UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and also that the Italian government's startup policy has introduced a flexible labor law with 6 to 36-month temporary contracts applicable for the whole startup's life cycle, so up to 4 years. But the most important thing we have to remember maybe is that the recent Italian government have become very serious about improving the business friendliness of the country. The country has started attracting significant investments as a result. So, newly approved legislation recognizes that the startups are important for the promotion of sustainable growth, technological development, and employment, in particular youth employment. It is commonly known that the startups can contribute to develop a new business culture, creating an environment which is more favorable to innovation, to social mobility, as well as attracting to Italy investments and talented people. It is also important to underline that the legislation doesn't refer just to the digital sector, but also to startups established across all sectors, so not only digital. Hence, new legislation contains the definition of a startup. The law decree refers to innovative startups to make it clear that it's dealing only with new companies whose business is clearly linked to innovation and technology. In order to benefit from support measures, a startup must fulfill a number of requirements, including that it must have been established for no longer than 48 months, must reside or be subject to taxation in Italy, has no turnover or has a turnover that does not exceed 5 million euros. It doesn't distribute profits. Core business consists of innovative goods or services of high technological value. It doesn't originate from a merger, dismerger, or divestment process. Finally, a startup can be qualified as innovative if either 15% of its costs are related at research and development, or at least one-third of the team is made up of people who either hold a PhD or a master's degree, or is the owner or the licensee of a patent or a registered software. But the new legislation contains also the definition of a startup with a social goal, fulfills all the requirements that apply to ordinary startups. However, a social startup operates in specific domains that have a considerable social value according to the Italian legislation. For example, social inclusion, fight to marginalization of disabled persons, environmental protection, etc. And now, what about startup incubators? According to the new legislation, it must verify if specific requirements concerning the startup's physical structures, management, facilities, and above all, its track record are fulfilled. In this way, the law aims at identifying the structures able to offer efficient incubation services in it. Certified incubators can benefit from some instruments provided for by the law. For example, they can use stock options as if they were a startup themselves, or priority access to credit deriving from tax return, or simplified access to guarantees on bank loans. Now we want also to remember other things. First, innovative startups and certified incubators must register at an online directory created for this purpose at the Chambers of Commerce, but unlike most companies, with no registration fees. Public registration procedure allows the company to gain visibility and to be controlled by the competent authorities. 2. Startups can hire personnel through fixed-time contracts which last for at least 6 months and no longer than 36 months. 3. Startups can remunerate their team members and the providers of external services with stock options, with or work for equity, and so on. 4. Some tax incentives for corporate and private investments in startups for the years 2013, 14, 15, and 16 have been provided. These incentives apply both in case of direct investments in startups and in case of indirect investments by the means of other companies investing predominantly in startups. We also want to remember that in 2013, CONSOB, the equivalent of the American Securities and Exchange Commission, published a regulation on the raising of venture capital by innovative startups through online portals, thanks to which Italy has become the first European Union country to have introduced a structured legislation on equity-based crowdfunding. Moreover, it has been provided a fast-track, simplified, and free of charge access for startups to the Fondo Centrale di Garanzia, a government fund that supports access to credit through guarantees on bank loans. Finally, it has been introduced a fail-fast procedure. The aim of this measure is to avoid that the entrepreneur is stuck for ages because of the liquidation procedure and to allow him to start a new business project as soon as possible. This is very important. Now, we can see that over the last year, there has been a growing number of innovative startups, up 120%. Growing number of funded startups, of institutional investors, a growing number also of startup competitions, and more and more. This helps to generate a virtuous cycle. Even if the most of innovative startups are still located in the north of our country, center and the south of Italy are quickly growing up, especially thanks to favorable local policies and incentives. The Italia Startup Observatory has noted that in the last year, the overall investment made both by institutional investors as well as business angels, family offices, and venture incubators in high-tech startups grew by over 15% to a value of 129 million euros. Even if the research forecasts a decrease in investments for this year, mainly due to the expiration of funds destined to venture capitalists in the south of Italy, growth in this sector appears consolidated. On a positive note, we must underline that investments made by non-institutional entities have been consistently on the rise since 2012, to the point that they now represent 50% of overall investments estimated for this year. Since 2012, Italy has implemented a groundbreaking startup law to encourage the creation and development of innovative startups. In fact, the aim of this policy is key to foster sustainable growth, technological development, and employment, especially employment for young people. The objective is also promoting a new entrepreneurial culture, encouraging greater social mobility and innovation in all sectors. So not only in digital, I repeat, but in all sectors. As a result, our country will become a global hub for international investment and talent. The Italia Startup Visa policy has been designed to help the achievement of this objective, providing a streamlined process for non-European Union talents to found innovative startups in Italy. This, along with different benefits provided by the recent law, will make Italy a world leader for innovative enterprises.
Good morning and good evening, everybody. Now, I would like to go through some practical tips in order to apply for the Italia Startup Visa. But before doing that, I would like to briefly introduce some important information that might be useful in the course of the presentation. First of all, the legislative framework. The Italian Startup Visa is contained in a so-called 2013 Flow Decree, which is a Prime Minister's decree concerning the entry flows and the programmation of entry flows of non-EU workers in the Italian territory. But this 2013 Flow Decree must also be coordinated with some other important provisions, especially those related to immigration law issues, and in particular Legislative Decree 286, dated 1998, which is the consolidated law on immigration. The first thing to be taken into consideration before going through the application process for the Italian Startup Visa is for the applicant to check whether he or she meets the preliminary eligibility requirements. In fact, only foreign nationals from non-EU countries who intend to set up an innovative startup as defined by 221 law, the Innovative Startup Law, may apply for a self-employment entry visa. Final information on the ISV committee. The reason for such introduction is due to the fact that the ISV committee is responsible for most part of the Italian Startup Visa application. Its main tasks include the making of an objective evaluation on the proposals and the projects submitted by the applicants, and an evaluation on the purpose of the innovative startup. Then the ISV committee also checks whether the applicant meets the eligibility requirements and the criteria to entry in Italy as a non-EU citizen. Another important thing is the issuance of the certificate of no impediment and the obtainment of provisional police certificate of no impediment for entry purposes. Please keep in consideration that the ISV committee is composed of representatives from very well recognized national associations who have close links and are deeply involved in the startup ecosystem. In fact, its members include associations such as the Italian Private Equity and Venture Capital Association, the Association of Italian Science and Technology Parks, the Italian Business Angels Network Association, the Network for the Exploitation of University Research, the Association of Incubators and Italian Academic Business Plan Competitions, and, most important, a representative from the Ministry of Economic Development. But now let's go through the core of the process application. An applicant has two different ways to apply for the Italian Startup Visa. The first one is through direct application. The second one is through a certified incubator. I have to say that these two different processes are mostly similar in terms of documents to be submitted, but the differences will be shown in few moments. The first step, considering the direct application, is for the applicant to sit in front of his PC and download the application form from the ISV committee. The form is available at the italiastartupvisa.mise.gov.it. Once the applicant has filled in the form, he must also prepare a cover letter showing that he possesses the necessary financial resources in order to develop the innovative startup. In terms of economic amount, such resources must amount at least 50K. Evidence of such financial resources can consist in letters from banks or loans or statements from business angels and so on. In addition, the applicant must also submit educational and employment history. describing his background, but as well as a business idea and a model, as well as a description of the core of the activities that will be made by the innovative startup. All such documents and forms must be sent by email to the ISV committee. This is very important because this means that at least the first part of the process is very quick and cheap. In 30 days, so we have a short time frame, the ISV committee will issue its final decision, whether to go for the second stage of the application or whether to reject the application form made by the applicant. During this evaluation, the ISV committee will check whether the eligibility requirements are met and whether the innovative startup that will be set up in Italy meets the objective requirements of good purpose, a solid idea, and a financial background. After this period of evaluation, the ISV committee notifies also the applicant diplomatic consular mission via emails, informs the Italian Startup Visa point of contact available at the Ministry of Foreign and Home Affairs, as well as to the Labor Ministry. Once that the applicant gets the certificate of no impediment and the approval from the ISV committee, it will have to go to the competent embassy or consulate in person and submit a bunch of documents, including the certificate of no impediment together with a provisional certificate of no impediment for entry purposes, a certificate of suitable accommodation in Italy, and as a proof he can show, for example, hotel reservation or an invitation letter, then a certificate of minimum income for previous year. Tax forms are sufficient. The important thing is that the minimum income must not be lower than 8.4K per year. A copy of the application form delivered to the ISV committee, as well as a copy of the cover letter showing proof of financial resources, as well as a copy of his passport. At the end of the process, if all the documents are submitted and if everything goes smooth, the visa will be issued. And then we go to the almost final step, because once the applicant gets the Italian Startup Visa, meaning the self-employment visa, he will be able to get in Italy, but no more than 8 days after his arrival in the country, he will have to apply for residence permit. Such a residence permit will be made by simply going to the post office, filling in the forms, paying the registration fees, and getting the receipt of payment. Such receipt will be filed with the local police headquarters, including a process of registration of fingertips. After that, the one-year residence permit will be issued, and the innovative startup can start to go real. After 1 year, the applicant must also go for the application of an additional residence permit. In this case, it will be for a 2 years duration, and the process is more or less the same as the one we already seen. The only difference is that in addition to residency permit forms, additional certificates and documents must be shown, including the certificate of incorporation, the articles of association, and the file search report of the innovative startup. Moreover, the applicant must also procure evidence of adequate annual income, and all these documents must, again, be filed with a local police headquarters. This is the end of the first type of application process. The second one is through a certified incubator. As you will see, the process is more or less the same. The difference are mainly those related to the cover letter showing evidence of financial resources of at least 50K, because in this case, the 50K amount can be also shown through the value of services that will be provided by the certified incubator. Moreover, there's another important document, which is the undertaking to host. This is a document to be submitted by the certified incubator, and in the essence, it says that the incubator is willing to host the applicant in its premises, and in such premises, the applicant will start its innovative enterprise. All documents and forms will be sent to the ISV committee. Then the ISV committee will take 30 days to complete its evaluation, and the process is from now on the same. So documents to be issued and filed with the competent embassy and consulate, and they are the very same documents that I showed you before. At the end of this process, the visa will be issued, and all the stages to obtain the 1 year and the 2 years residence permits are the very same. So I will skip them and finish my presentation. I see that there are some questions. Okay. Jerry from Australia asked, how many successful ISV applications since 2012, and which types of industries usually find success? In 2012, the Italian startup visa was not yet enacted, so we have to take into consideration data for 2013 only and the first years of 2014. As far as we know, considering research reports, more or less 100 applications went smoothly, and they usually refer to industries including pharma, biotech, and services. So, for any questions and any other details on the process and on the aspects of the innovative startup, please send an email to me, Alessandra Palladini, or to my colleague Alessandro Grangiotti, and we will be happy to provide you with all details requested. You can see the email addresses where you can send over your emails at the end of this presentation. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.